Welcome to Strange Occurrences, a weekly collection of the weirdest stories in the world that I can find, part of the Riche Collective, Riche Life, living the simply luxurious lifestyle on a budget. I am Rose Stone, also known as Miss Riche Life, on all the socials. I do TikTok live at 7 to 7:30 every Wednesday, Eastern Standard Time. Right now, I am unboxing a bunch of CDs. And now we've been talking 80s music. I just found Vitalogy that I did not even know had, the really great album. Anyway, it was so surprising. You can actually catch that clip on TikTok and the live recording of Strange Occurrences on Spotify and YouTube. So, a while back, a few episodes, I did the strangest occurrences of the 1980s that I could find on this awesome website called Weird Universe. Now, I'm going to go through the 90s with their list and add in a few of the 90s was a really, really strange time because the 80s was growing in technology, and we had the cell phones, but it had like the giant batteries that you also had to carry around like a briefcase with your cord, the spiral cord with the cell phone attached to it. And then they got kind of smaller and smaller and smaller, but still with these heavy batteries in it. And they only made phone calls. And it cost like $9 a minute to make a phone call. So now we've got everything, a computer, a camera, a microphone. It's everything. It makes calls, it texts. It's so weird because in the 90s with the cell phones, we never thought that we would get any of this. And then after around the Y2K time, after 2000 or so, it was the Nextels. Remember, they were all the construction phones and they had the walkie-talkies, but everyone would get them. And you could actually have a conversation for free by just pressing the walkie-talkie and talking to the person instead of having to call them. I actually kind of miss them, and I miss the BlackBerry. But that's just me with technology. I also miss the VCR, and I was telling my mother I miss the rotary phone. She was laughing at me, but I miss twirling the cord around my finger while I'm speaking on the phone. Now I have to pace, and I hate that. I don't talk on the phone very much, even though I talk a lot on this mic. So, yeah, the 90s was weird because, it was the beginning of cell phones. Well, the 80s was the beginning of cell phones, but it was the beginning of people getting cell phones in the home. We had now caller ID, we had call waiting. So we had all this technology that we didn't have even just 2 or 3 years ago in the late 80s. And all of a sudden now you could hear a beep and put someone on hold, pick up another call. You know what I used to do when my friends were bothering me on the phone and talking too long? I would say, oh, I have another call, and I would put it on mute just for a few minutes to collect my thoughts and catch my breath and then go back to listening. Sorry, guys, but I am not a phone person. I get overwhelmed with a lot of it. Anyway, there was that, and then there was call waiting, so you had to get a new phone that had like a digital screen so you could see who was calling, which was great because you'd be like, oh, I'm not picking that up. And you could see if it was telemarketers that always called at dinner time. And then, we went from the cassettes to the CDs, and there were still VCRs, VHS, but everyone was getting into DVDs and Blu-rays, and now it's all streaming. So, it's weird to try and like collect things like CD collections like we have now. Everyone's getting back into their record collections and everything. Like, is it more kitsch? Is it more nostalgia? Or is it like a real thing? Is this like a real way of life? Or are you just going to go back to streaming your music and leave your records in the corner like we did? Who knows? So let's get to this Weird Universe net. If you do want to check it out, they've got everything from the 1900s through the 90s, the weirdest news that they could find. So I have to thank them for the 80s stuff because some of it I didn't remember, and I'll keep looking for it. You know me with the weird. So here we go. The first one. God, the 90s was weird. Hot dog advertising. So in January of 1990, the Viskase Corporation debuted a new technology that allowed edible ink ads to be printed onto hot dogs. The company boasted that now, for the first time, Hot dogs could be used as a communications medium. People would do that by writing in mustard. Anywho, it also suggested that hot dog advertising would be a great way for companies to target messages at children, okay, and establish brand preference early. Oh, maybe that's what Oscar Mayer did with the Wienermobile. I get it. Okay. However, the company found no takers for its hot dog ad technology. One concessions manager noted, "Our hot dogs are already cooked and in a bun wrapped when they're sold. You wouldn't see the message." That is absolutely hilarious. If you've ever been out to Pink's Hot Dogs in Hollywood, they can write anything out on their hot dogs. Great place, iconic place. I used to go out there and I knew someone that was a member of the Magic Castle. And you can only get in there, I believe, if you know someone who's a member or if you are a member. And I got to go a few times. It's an incredible place. And I could only afford a glass of wine or two. Could not afford the meals. So we would go to Pink's Hot Dogs. Great place, though. Great place. Iconic. Totally love it. All right, let's get back to more weird stuff. What happened in 1992? So they didn't find anything weird for 91, but they found something weird for 1992. So if we all remember the photo huts of the 70s and 80s where you would drop off your film and they would develop it in these small photo huts and then you would go and pick up your film. Well, someone turned a photo hut into a drive-through condom store. That's pretty bold for the 90s, I will say. June 1992, very bold for 1992. The opening in Cranston, Rhode Island of Condom Hut, the world's first ever drive-through condom store, sparked outrage among local residents. The Roman Catholic Diocese of Providence condemned it as a moral outrage. A rock was thrown through its window and graffiti was spray painted on its front. The owner of the business, former flight attendant and self-styled adventurous entrepreneur Emmanuel Del Vecchio, eventually succumbed to community pressure and closed the store. Del Vecchio, Italian. Interesting. And the Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church, of course, said it was a moral outrage, which is very much like the Roman Catholic Church. I went to Catholic school and religion was a course. Like it was part of the daily schedule. And I don't remember what we learned. I remember watching movies sometimes. And I remember piling up all of my books so that I could put my hands on top of my books and my chin on my hands and take a nap. And that is what I remember of religion class in the 90s. Moving on to, of course, lawsuits, because what is more American than lawsuits? Ugh. All right. So this one is called You Got the Right One, Baby. So in 1993, a ventriloquist named Arthur Takeall sued Pepsi for $130 million, claiming that the company's popular TV ads featuring Ray Charles saying the slogan, "You got the right one, baby, infringed on his intellectual property. Takeall insisted that he had been using that line for years in his act. He would choose an attractive woman in the audience and say, "You've got the right one," and his puppet, Scooter, would then say, "The judge dismissed the case." Yeah. I have to say, one of the things that freaks me out, but I'm also completely enthralled by, is ventriloquists. I'm like, how do you make all those words without moving your lips really at all? Like the really good ones don't move at all. Anyway, but puppets freak me out. A lot of things freak me out. Puppets, clowns, masks, dolls with eyes that close. those things freak me out. So it would have freaked me out to see that guy have his puppet say uh-huh to me. But there's also another song. What's that song? It's New Kids on the Block. You got the right one, baby. So yeah, it's just a line. I don't understand lawsuits in this country. I just don't. I mean, I get that you can sue for anything. I just don't understand how some of these lawyers don't give their clients like better advice. But I guess maybe going up against Pepsi, people wanted the clout, let's say. Who knows? All right, let's see what else has happened. We're only in the beginning of the 90s here. Okay. Oh, this is absolutely horrible. So, a bus driver in January of 1994, school bus driver, by the way, in Port Washington, Wisconsin, insisted he was only joking when he shouted out, should he hit a dog seconds before he hit it on the road, and the animal belonged to two of the children on the bus, and it came up to meet them. Oh my God. And he tried to blame the accident on icy conditions. Ew. I can't even, I'm heartbroken right now. I'm disgusted. I have to move on from this. Okay. I'm going to brush that off. I hate stories about animals being hurt. But if you want to hear a story about my beautiful, sweet Glory, she's part Springer Spaniel, Australian Shepherd, and Pit Bull. She is just joy and love and compassion. All my other dogs are too. I love them. Zeta is a little terrier, and Harley's a big, like, she's a tree hound. She's huge. And then I have my little gray tabby cat, Buster. But Glory is just filled with compassion. She shares her time with everyone. She plays with everyone. And yesterday, she saw a chipmunk, poor baby, get clipped by a car, and it ran into our yard, and she put it in her mouth. She brought it under a shady tree, and she laid with it for a really long time, giving it comfort. And she wouldn't walk away from it, and she's the sweetest. So I hate hearing things about people that don't have compassion for animals, because if you don't have compassion for animals, you don't have compassion for anything. So, yeah. All right. So here's something pretty weird. This is called Thou Shalt Not Mow. A man believes his plants are sacred, and he will not mow his sacred lawn. So, March of 1994, Jeff Goldstein, who described himself as a semi-active pagan Jewish minister, okay, none of that makes sense because there are no Jewish ministers. He got in trouble with the city of Madison, Wisconsin, because he refused to mow his lawn, claiming that to do so would violate his deeply held religious, what the heck, belief that plants were sacred. He further explained that he prayed to his lawn, and to mow it would be I can't even say this word. You know what happened in the 1940s, that word, against the green creatures. However, the courts ruled that Goldstein had to mow his lawn anyway because he hadn't proved he was a follower of a genuine religion. So I think that that's just the epitome of lazy. I mean, you could have hired someone to mow the lawn too. And plus, when you have your lawn too high, you get mosquitoes and ticks and snakes and all the things you don't want. So there are reasons we need to keep the lawns mowed. Really weird, but people will try anything to get out of anything. Yeah. Okay, so this next one is another lawsuit. Literally, the 90s was like the explosion of frivolous lawsuits in the United States, and almost nothing has changed. And I feel like the more wrong you are, the more the case gets pushed forward, and then they let the courts allow what's happening. But this is so weird. Okay, so the Supreme Court, April of 1996, top court rejects woman's lawsuit to regain rights to rice dish recipe. Interesting. So maybe there were no recipe blogs in 1996 then. Who knows? I don't remember. So the Supreme Court declined to hear the case of Bobby June Griggs versus South Carolina Electric and Gas. How do they have a recipe? Despite Griggs' insistence that the utility's publication of her rice recipe in its Rice Cook-Off Contest cookbook had been physically and emotionally devastating, causing her to have a nervous breakdown as well as leading to a loss of marital relations between herself and her husband over rice. Oh, it's like they took the rice back from the wedding? Maybe? Griggs' case had already been dismissed by 2 lower courts, costing her over $9,500 in legal fees. Well, that's what led to your marital woes, honey. Oh my goodness. I mean, I guess I could be like understanding a little bit that your recipe was out there and you're upset, but did you put it out there? Very weird. The 90s was such a strange time. So, here we go again. Not quite a lawsuit, but this is a recall. So we all know the pens Mont Blanc, the very, very expensive pens. Well, they put the wrong signature on a high-end pen. So October of 1996, Mont Blanc, a maker of high-end pens, had to issue a recall of a limited edition $750 pen engraved with the signature of Alexandre Dumas, author of The Three Musketeers, when they realized that the signature on the pen was actually that of Dumas's not as famous son, Alexander Dumas Jr., who is mainly remembered as the author of The Lady with the Camellias, which now I have to find that book because I don't know it. So let's just talk about the fact that a pen cost $750 back in 1996. Wow. That is a lot of money. I actually want to see what these pens cost now, because I didn't have $750. Well, I was all in student loans back in the 90s. Oh, let's see what these pens cost. Luxury pens, they are refillable, but let's see. All right. A platinum coated ballpoint pen right now is $470. And they're all free personalized now. So I guess they can put your own signature on for $615 for the original or origin classic ballpoint. Wow. $1,075 for another pen. So if you guys are really into your signature and penmanship and everything, you might want to spend a fortune on a pen. That's crazy. But $750 back in 1996 was a lot of money for a lot of people. All right, let's move on and see what's next. Here is a funny one right out of Texas, because Texas has always Texased. They've out-Texased everyone. This is absolutely hilarious. So a Texas county taking the hell out of hello. So January 1997, it seems that January, people have their like New Year's resolutions, their brilliant ideas come up. I don't know. Maybe that's what it is. So the commissioners of Kleberg County, Texas, voted unanimously to adopt Heaven-O as the county's official greeting. The resolution was the result of years of campaigning by local resident Leonzo Canales, who opposed the use of hello because it contains the word hell. He proposed that Heaven-O would be more positive and a more harmonious salutation. So anyone out there Kleberg County, Texas. In the 90s, did you say heaveno instead of hello? Did you say it when answering the phone, greeting people, all of that? Did it just flutter away like the very, very weird thing that it is? Because that is very, very strange to try and like change languages. But I actually remember, because now I go back to the whole Catholic school thing. I remember we had nuns as teachers and Christian brothers as teachers. And one of the nuns was shopping for Christmas gifts, I guess, or in a store. I don't know if nuns shop. I guess they do. But she said she was in a store and she went up to the store manager and made them change their sign and take down their sign that said Xmas, because she said it's about Christ and Jesus is the reason for the season. And she was so mad about Merry Xmas that she went back to the store to make sure that they put up a Merry Christmas sign. And I think she scared them because she was a really scary nun. And she used to give this talk to everyone every year about all the things that you would do that would get you kicked out of heaven, let's just say, and put in the inferno. And it was like sophomore year, I think. Anyway, it was terrifying, the things that she said. And I remember this one day, I drove to pick my sister up. She went to the same school. I drove to pick her up sophomore year, and she came out of school and her face was like just no color in it, just pale white. I looked at her. I said, "You had Sister Jones talk today, didn't you, about not going to heaven?" She said, "Oh, yeah." I said, "Just brush it off and keep going." So that is what happens when you get overly religious people talking to you. It makes you a little crazy, it worries you a lot, and you don't know what to think, because she was telling us we were going to the inferno for things we were doing daily, and it was scary. All right. This one is probably the weirdest one. This is the weirdest story I've ever heard in my whole life. Okay. The fainting woman sex case. March 1996, a Cincinnati woman who suffered from a rare psychiatric disorder that caused her to faint every time she heard the word sex, claimed that she had been sexually assaulted by a man who took advantage of her condition. During the trial, the judge had to instruct lawyers to use the terms nookie or blank instead of the word sex so that the woman would not keep fainting in court. The defendant was found guilty and sentenced to 7 to 25 years in prison. Now, this is the kind of court case that you want to hear work out, because to get a conviction in the 1990s on sexual assault is a huge victory. It was honestly a nightmare for so many of us. That's all I have to say about that. All right, let's move on to 1997. So, in Los Angeles and Orange counties, the street guide and directory was called the Thomas Guide. In New York, we had the Yellow Pages. So, their 1997 guide featured what they call something satanic, the Satanic Thomas Guide. So the front cover of this 97 Thomas Guide it's a road atlas, for Los Angeles and Orange counties, boasted that the guide included 666 new streets, which prompted concerned Christians to start calling the publisher, fearing that the use of the number 666 was a satanic signal. Eventually, the publisher recalled the guide and issued a new one that boasted only 665 new streets. The company explained that it made the change because it wanted buyers to feel confident with the use of their product. Wow. It's always the Christians. I don't get it. Like, I don't have enough time to think about these things. Anyway, the last one on this list, because it only goes up to June 1998, and this one is from the UK, It's called What's in the Boot Then? Baked beans in the boots. Ew. June 1998. During a routine check, police stopped a man in Colchester, Essex, and discovered that he was wearing Wellington boots filled with baked beans in tomato sauce. The officers never found out why he was doing this, but warned him that he should wear more appropriate footwear, since boots full of baked beans could cause him to be distracted and have an accident. And all I could think about is, oh my goodness, that scene in Boogie Nights with Burt Reynolds and the Vaseline and the cowboy boots. People are weird. The 90s was a strange time. And then we also had the OJ trial, which I have spoken about. We had the Waco fiasco. We had the LA riots with Rodney King. We had Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky. There was so much that it was like the first sort of crack in the dam of things coming out into the open, because there was more technology. There was ways to get more technology and more information out there. You know, in the 80s, 70s, beyond, it was rumors. Some of them were true, some of them were not, but you always gossiped about them. But in the 90s, that little crack in the dam led to what's happening now. You know, it led to the internet. It led to people being able to make videos with information that they find that's not on mainstream media. And we need this information because you'll never know some of these things. That is the strangest occurrences of the 1990s that I found from weirduniverse.net. You guys go check them out. And thank you all for tuning into this episode. I will see you on the next one. Have an awesome day. Love, peace, and hair grease.